Hello and welcome to Color Shields, a bullet hell game that I made for 235. The trick of this game is that to dodge the bullets, you have a few options. You can just, of course, do it the normal way and not get hit, or you can change your color to the same color of the bullets to allow the bullets to pass through. I'm gonna do my best to try and win so that you can see the full game. Although there is one spell that's very hard to dodge, and I do not know if I will be able to get it first try. Okay, moment of truth. Oh my gosh, we did it. Okay. I'm a master gamer, guys. Let's go. So let's look at the code. So first things first, when I was making this game, you obviously have to get whatever engine you're going to use up and running. I used Pixie. It's like a library. I guess it's not really an engine, but it has a lot of features that make making a game a lot easier, especially with the graphics. So I start by loading all the assets that I'm going to be using. I create the class objects that are going to be controlling a lot of the game's behavior. You have the player, the boss, and the spawner. And to control the player, obviously we need to track the keyboard keys. And how am I going to do that? Well, I have these two event functions that track which keys are being pressed in a JavaScript object. And so if we go ahead and take a look at the player class, we're going to be checking that object keys for which keys are being pressed down. And that will change the color and texture to the desired color and texture, as well as moving the character around. And I even have a little focus thing in case you want to move slower, which isn't really that useful in this game. That's why I didn't use it when I was playing it. But you know, it's good to be like complete and give as many movement options as you can to the player. So when you shoot, now there's no button for shooting, so it just happens every frame. And when that's called, it creates a new bullet, and the bullets are updated here to simply move straight up. So like when they go off screen or when they hit the boss, they're marked as dead, and then they are spliced from the array and removed from the scene. And bullets 2 are the boss's bullets. These are removed whenever the lifespan is less than 0. And the boss's bullets are a little bit more complicated, so they have a, I had to create a few classes for them. Well, 2. One of them is a spawner, which controls the various shots patterns. So we have shoot S, which will spray. I can actually show these off as we go. So shoot S is, oh, nothing's updating because I won. So I hit the R button to restart. Shoot S is actually this first one, and it changes color based on the color of the player. This kind of gets the player used to having to switch their colors a lot. And then this is the shoot wall. It shoots these little walls of bullets. And then shoot X is the one that you saw that was like, here, I'll spawn it with the debug controls. It's like this. Really hard to dodge if you're not switching color, almost impossible. And that's the beauty of this gameplay mechanic, that you can have patterns that you wouldn't normally be able to have in this type of game. And then the final one, shoot O, is this crazy just spiral of death. Good luck. And there's no safe spot there. I tried my hardest to make sure that, like, I checked for all the little areas you could try and be safe. You have to move back and forth to dodge those. And I tried to make the difficulty increase such that it will teach you the mechanics and also gradually get harder as it goes on. So with this one, you can do it just by switching colors, and it's really easy. but it does introduce you to the mechanic, especially with the color of these bullets changing as well, and it introduces you to this pattern, which is going to show up when you least expect it right at the end, and you're going to have to be ready to switch color and dodge at the same time. So yeah, you start by doing a pattern that you mostly just have to switch color, then you get one where you mostly just have to dodge, and then you get one where you mostly have to switch color, but it's a lot harder. A lot of people actually have trouble with spell 3. That's when you have these two going, or there's 3 on screen because it's when you have these two going. And this is just a lot of switching color, and you have to get really good with those colors, you know, the new mechanic. It's kind of like, almost more like Guitar Hero than it is like a bullet hell game at that point. And then you get this, so you're dodging, but you also have to switch the color. And then that comes up once more, where you're dodging, you also have to switch color. Right at the end, you have to really be able to like multitask those two things. And by the end, once you've beaten this, you are a master gamer, and you deserve that message. You've earned it. It's hard. Yeah, so after I got the movement set up and the bullets from the player, I had to start working on the bullets from the boss. And so those have their own class because they need all sorts of behaviors. They need different speeds, different rotations. This is like the velocity actually rotates, and the speed actually increases. So that's how you get that cool spiral effect from the S curve. So after I started getting these working and I finished designing all 3, well, I needed to do the collisions. And so I just did that right in the bullet class, right here, and this will do a box collision, and the box collision's 30 pixels by 30 pixels, which, if I get the PNGs open, not for these, for the bullets. That's approximately this big. It's pretty small, so like there's a lot of leeway for the player to like accidentally maybe hit like just a little bit over here, a little bit up here, and you'll be fine. So it feels really good. It doesn't feel like, oh, you're getting hit over here because the box is too big. I made sure the box was smaller than the circle. This sprite is inspired by Paper Mario right here. Gotta make sure to give credit where credit's due. I really like Thousand Year Door. This is like the cursed ghost. It also just looks like a kind of generic jack-o'-lantern face, so it's not really the kind of thing that, you know, it's not instantly recognizable, but if you are a fan of the game, you probably would notice that. Okay, so then we have those bullet patterns, but now when are we going to launch them into the game? When are we going to start getting them in sequence? Although I should mention, having this is not enough to get these bullet patterns to work. So you need a fire rate for each of these, which are designed down here using time, and frame count, which is a variable that I created over here that tells you which frame out of 60 you're on, and the frame count is locked at 60 so that this runs no matter what type of monitor you have at 60 frames per second. I guess if you have a 30 frames per second monitor, I mean, well, you know, that's a question for another day. I had a lot of trouble getting it to be consistent across displays, and it was hard for me to test that because I just have two 60 frame monitors. I had to like call up some friends and get them to try it out, you know, trial and error like that. So this is actually how I ended up getting, like, designing the boss. So the boss has health that goes down whenever a player bullet, where is that? Right here, hits the boss. These are shot at 60 frames per second, and they are, the position, I didn't mention this earlier, but the position is random in the X component, but it's never outside of like where the player should reasonably be able to shoot. It's like right at the square, so you get kind of like this cool little like spray right here. You see how those bullets they look kind of natural because it's random, and when those make contact with the boss, then the boss's health goes down by 1, and over time we'll go through these various attack phrases. So the first one is the S, then you have S and X, W and S, and then O, and then S and O. Although these kind of feel like they're the same spell, it just gets harder as it goes on. And there is a little bit of a rest period between the second to last spell and the last spell, which is right here. And for each of these, the health bar is reset to max. The health bar being a stretched out red image. Right at the top here. And you'll see that while I play this, it slowly decreases for each spell. And that'll give you a good idea of when the next spell is coming, but it doesn't spoil when the game's going to end. So it keeps it kind of motivating, because if you just had one health bar for the whole boss fight, you'd see, oh, it's only there, and it's so hard. But since it's for each one, it keeps like that level idea going in your mind, and it keeps you engaged. So that's kind of the idea there. And then after I finished setting up the whole bullet pattern, the whole progression, the movements working, the color switches working, and everything's going, it was just little improvements, little tweaks to the patterns, playing around in the debug to just see how everything looks. Making these sprites, making sure that these look really good and really professional, I guess. I mean, these aren't that hard to make, but they do look really nice in my opinion. And that was kind of, just one of the many things I wanted to make sure felt good about the game. And then, of course, adding just, I have to actually refresh the page for this one. This title screen, if we can get it. Yeah. Having the controls right there, nice and simple. It feels really nice. Just rest your hand in that position. You don't have to really move your fingers around too much to get it going, and it gives you all the info that you need. And yeah, I think it looks really nice. I think it turned out pretty well.